Good morning. We're going to go ahead and start at 9 a.m., contrary to what's said on that clock. So, Melanie, are we ready to begin the meeting?
Yes, we are, Madam President.
Okay, it's 9 a.m. and I call the November 14, 2025 meeting of SDCERS Board of Administration to order. Melanie, do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum with Member Christiana Gauger absent.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So thank you, Melanie, for moving on to Section 3. Do we have public comment?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I would like to, first of all, thank Cliff Sherishon for his service on the board. As some of you may have known, he has resigned from the board due to other interests. And Cliff has served with us for 7 years, and his leadership was on our investment committee chair as well as our board vice president. And I certainly will greatly miss him. I know you all will as well. I would also, we can give him a hand, right, even though he's not here. Will there be an opportunity for him to come back? We can recognize him in person?
We'll have a nice networking event where we'll honor a variety of people.
Okay, perfect. I would also like to recognize Louis Nguyen for his board service, as this will be his last final meeting as a member of our board. So sorry that you're leaving, Louis. I tried to convince him to stay. But Louis completed his first board term this past March and has graciously continued to serve beyond that point, and we certainly thank you for that. And I would also like to thank Louis for his 4 years plus serving on the board and being a valuable asset on the investment committee, and we will miss your questions. I would also like to recognize Christina Gager, who came to us as the City of San Diego's Chief Compliance Officer and now has accepted a promotion to the position of Assistant Director in the Public Utilities Department. And lastly, I would like to recognize Melanie Peter, SDCERS Compliance Program Coordinator and Senior Paralegal, who is helping us with the meeting today while Rosie is away taking care of her family for the next few months. So thank you so much. All right, so we already said we have no public comment. So now moving on to Section 4, approval of the consent agenda, service drop retirements, drop entries, training, and board agenda calendar. Before I call a motion for approval, would any member of the board like to pull any item on the consent agenda for a separate vote?
I just have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Our retreat in April, do we have a date on that yet?
We do not. We'll be canvassing the board to find a date that works for most of the board members. I realize that that's also spring break for the people with families, not just our board members here, but also the consultants and experts that we hope to have join us on that date.
Yeah, I certainly have some scheduling things that I have to do for April, so the sooner we could know, the better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we definitely will try to work around everybody's schedule so everyone can attend. Okay, so hearing no request to pull the consent agenda items, may I please have a motion and a second to approve consent items agenda items A through E? Okay, are there any board member would like to speak on this matter? No? Okay, let's vote.
And the motion passes 10-0.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, now we have one action item and one information item on the business and operations agenda. And this morning, starting with our action item, confirmation of SDCERS Board President. Greg, you want to take this item?
Yes, please. It's good to see everyone this morning. In the normal course of business, we generally choose a board president at our March meeting or create an ad hoc committee to search for a board president. And then after we get a new board president or a returning board president, then they make a recommendation to the board for a vice president for a confirmation vote. As Mr. Shearson, our former vice president, has left the board, we have a vacancy. So our President Harris has recommended that we have Michelle Bush serve as our new vice president. As you can see in the memo, a very good choice with, I believe that she'll do very, very well in this role in serving the board. And so we would need a motion and a second as a confirmation for that recommendation from the president.
Does anyone have any comments? No? Okay, we'll go to vote.
And that motion passes 10-0.
Perfect. And I would like to thank Michelle for her willingness to serve as vice president and to the board for theirs, and thank you to the board for your support. I'm looking forward to working with Michelle in her new leadership role. And now we will move to business and operations information item, where we'll have our annual training on Brown Act and Public Records Act. Take it away, Johnny.
Good morning. Thank you, Lisa Marie. Congratulations, Michelle, on your vice presidency. Happy last meeting for 2025, board. Thank you so much for your service. This is also your last training for the year for me, so thank you for your next 15 minutes. We're going to go kind of quickly over the Brown Act and Public Records Training Act. We give this annually. It should be a refresher to all of you, because we all do this training when we first start, and we do this annually. And gosh, you guys have done a great job of keeping up with these laws. That hasn't always been the case for SDCERS. Historically, this board and other boards have gotten in trouble with it, but I believe it's the integrity of this board to follow the law, to do the right thing that has kept us out of the trouble. So let's start. Do I push Control L? Thank you, Blanca. I didn't learn that one in law school. Here's an overview of what we'll talk about. So the Brown Act, this is how this statute starts. All meetings of the legislative body of a local agency shall be open and public, and all persons shall be permitted to attend any meeting of the legislative body of a local agency except otherwise provided in this chapter. That's it. It's really what we do. We're open to the public because we serve the public. And so people should be able to attend, comment, participate in what we do. The question is, well, when is there a meeting? Well, a meeting occurs when the majority of those assigned to a committee or 7 members of the board. And if we have that, then the Brown Act applies. So we have that today because we have 7 board members or more present. We have that for our standing committees as well. When does it not apply? Well, individual contact. Paul, if you were to talk to me in private, that would just be one person. That's not a quorum of the Disability Committee. That's not a quorum of the board. And so that would not be a public meeting. But no serial meetings. Paul, I couldn't talk to you and then talk to 6 other individuals and share what every individual did, because that would constitute 7 and therefore a quorum. What about an educational conference? If you all went to a conference locally, that's fine, as long as there's no shop talk. You're there to learn about pensions, but not necessarily SDCERS' business. And then by definition of an ad hoc committee isn't subject to it because it's less than a quorum. It doesn't have, it's not a permanent body, and we don't make final decisions in ad hoc committees. So there's a meeting. What's that mean? Well, we have to provide an agenda to the public, a notice to the public, and then provide documents. What does that mean? Agenda's got to be posted at least 72 hours before our meetings. SDCERS posts its agendas Thursday night and Friday the week before, so quite a bit earlier than 72-hour minimum requirements. The agenda has to state generally what we're going to talk about. You know, we take it a step further. We provide our public documents so people know exactly what we're talking about. If it's not on the agenda, the board may not discuss or act on the matters of the agenda. This is the fine point that I really appreciate. Greg, I think he really helps me in not pushing me in that envelope of can we talk about this, can we not, and really respects that. And that helps me try to give the best advice and help this organization follow this law. Okay. Public participation. Our meetings are compliant with the Americans with Disability Act. The only time we don't allow public participation is for the small handful of closed session exceptions, things that we talk about normally, things like in litigation, etc. This board must be open to public comment. That includes criticism. So it's not just people coming saying how great you guys are doing, even though you are. We also have to accept criticism. There is a new statute in the act that's been codified. It's been there through case law, but codified that we can remove individuals if they're disrupting the meeting. And disruption is statutorily explained. The city of Berkeley recently got in a little trouble. I guess it gets a little crazy up at Berkeley. And they couldn't get control of their audience or the public. So instead of clearing the participants that were being disruptive, they moved the entire meeting to a different room without any participants. And the court said that wasn't properly clearing the meeting because you should have included the people who weren't disruptive. So it's an example of how we need to handle disruptive participants.
But it is okay to just haul people out, because that's what some meetings have happened across the country.
Yeah, that's actually the appropriate way to do it.
Okay.
Call them out, give a warning, and then adjourn the meeting temporarily, have the person leave, and then continue the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about how you can participate in these meetings. Traditionally, and what we value and want to do is in person. I think it's still the best way to do it, have people participate. We provide a venue to do so. And so that's how Greg has run this organization to really push in-person meetings. For a long time, there's traditional teleconference meetings. That is a location outside of our designated space that other participants can attend. So if let's say you were working at the police station and there was a public area that we could have, then we could have a little side venue to attend through teleconference video at that station, but is open to the public. We give a notice over there as if it were just another meeting like this one. There's smaller exceptions. Just cause emergencies, if you have a disability, eligible subsidiary body exception, that you could video teleconference, kind of like we did during the pandemic. Legislative updates. There was a big bill that passed this year that really kind of revamped the act. One, it requires that each new board member receive a copy of the Brown Act. So if you saw your material, I've attached the entire Brown Act so you can read it at your leisure. That was supposed to be a joke, but no laughs. It allows, if you have a disability, you can participate virtually as a reasonable accommodation. There's other requirements, like for reporting out for executive compensation. And it revises and makes permanent certain rules for state of emergencies, et cetera, to attend virtually. Okay. Any questions about the Brown Act before I move quickly to my 3-4 slides on the Public Records Act? Great. The Public Records Act, it's a different body of law that I think goes hand in hand with what we do with our culture and values of transparency and public participation. So what is the Public Records Act? Well, it's a law that gives the right to the public to review the records of SDCERS, your records, our records, so they can inspect them. What's a public record then, Johnny? It's almost everything. It's not your traditional piece of paper. It can be done electronically. It can be a text message. It can be a voice message. It's really almost anything that's tangible and relates to what we do at SDCERS.
Actually, I have a question on that, Johnny.
Yes.
You know, as we all undertake AI tools, one tool that I know people are starting to use a lot more is having the AI agent take notes during meetings. And I was curious, what's your position if we were to start, if SDCERS was to start having those notes taken, that could be PR8?
Yes.
As
I don't want to
opposed
comment on use of that. I'm going to leave that to Michelle and all her brilliance with their technology. But if we were to do that and then have that record recorded, that would be a public record subject to inspection.
So have you all thought about, just as a plan going forward, how are you going to use that tool and manage PRA requests?
Believe it or not, we're already using that tool. Very excited at yesterday's B&G meeting. Natasha Clear, our Member Services Director, reported that we are using an AI tool to record phone calls. The key is not to rely on that summary without somebody looking at it and saying, yes, this is correct, and saving it. And so we're doing that in the call center is that it creates the summary, but you need to physically, or not physically, but actually move that summary into the member's record. You have to edit it, cut it out. So that fact of saving it, now you're going, this is a good public record, which is then discoverable. And
Right.
as these tools evolve, we may use them for our minutes, but we actually record this entire meeting, so somebody can watch the actual words. They can watch you talk. And
No, I get
it all.
that, but I'm just saying, like, internal meetings and phone calls, which normally would not have been a record, will now be a record going forward.
That's correct.
You guys are okay with that?
As long as we have someone reviewing those notes and making sure they're accurate and saving them, yes, it is a great labor-saving device. And also can help you make sure that you've hit all the points and not forget something. So it's a good tool, but it is just a tool.
But to follow up on what Lisa Marie's saying, so let's say you go through that process. Now you have AI's version of what happened. You go through it and you distill it down to what really happened. And now the AI record's over there with what it thinks happened, and you have your piece with what you think happened. Which is it all discoverable, or what's the deal?
So I'm going to give an answer, but then I'm going to call a friend who's my attorney. But my understanding is that a public record is the final document, not draft documents. And so in that scenario, I would say that first summary is a draft document, which then gets finalized. How'd I do, Counselor?
That's correct.
But I'm just thinking there might be a good idea to really not just assume that this is how you want to proceed, but have some governance around it.
Absolutely. Yeah, management's currently working on how we should use AI in the review committee for that. So again, Michelle is all over that one.
Okay,
So you can
perfect.
follow up with her if that's something you want. Hope that's okay. Okay. Last slide, relevant news and cases. Recently, Grossmont School District was in our local paper concerning a Public Records Act lawsuit brought by the UT San Diego. And the issue there is like many other public entities and their boards, the board members there were using their personal email addresses, their personal phone and text to communicate Grossmont School District business. And so under the Public Records Act, it doesn't matter where you store it. It doesn't matter if it's your personal Yahoo email. It's a public records if it relates to your public business and doesn't have an exception like you're talking to an attorney. And so in that case, understandably, there were some board members that produced more texts and more emails than others. And the argument was, well, clearly if Johnny had a text to Frank and Johnny produces that text, where's Frank's text? And that's before the appellate court to decide whether there was a violation of the Public Records Act because of that. So I share that case study with you just to remind you that what you do here is public. And so we continue to push you and recommend that you use your SDCERS emails and not your personal phones and text for things like that. I think you've all done a really great job of that, and so I really appreciate your continued diligence. Any questions? Then thank you, Lisa Marie. Thank you, Board.
Any further questions for Johnny? Okay, well, thank you, Johnny. This finishes our business and operations agenda item. We'll actually take an item out of order. Bobby Spoon, our chair of B&G, needs to leave a little early, so we're going to move up section 7 to currently now. So, Bobby, can you give your report?
The B&G committee met yesterday, and before I review the 4 action items and make a motion for the consent agenda approval of the action items 1 through 4, are there any action items the board members would like pulled for a separate vote? Okay, hearing none. Starting with the consent agenda, item number 1, staff's recommendation to approve payment of the annual supplemental benefit. Ted presented yesterday and explained approving the payment of the annual supplemental benefits and related Corbett benefits are a matter of duty per the plan rules and a court settlement, provided SDCERS has sufficient realized earnings to do so. Ted assured the committee that SDCERS has sufficient realized earnings this fiscal year to pay the benefits. The committee unanimously approved paying the annual supplemental benefit and related Corbett benefits, moving the measurement date from September to August due to the delay in accumulating the data that was certainly not the fault of SDCERS. It was not published government data that caused the delay. Are there any questions or comments regarding this item? Okay, none. Moving to consent agenda number 2. Recommendation to approve the 2026 drop account interest crediting rate and the drop annuity factor and to revise board rules 610 and 640. SDCERS policy requires the board to approve drop account interest crediting rate and drop annuity factor for the coming year based upon the board's policy calculation. In the calendar year 2026, the drop account interest rate will decrease from 4.4 to 4.2%, and the drop annuity factor will remain the same at 5% for the city and for the airport, and increase from 5.1 to 5.3 for the port. The committee unanimously approved recommending the board approve the 2025 drop interest rate and annuity factor and adjusting the annual measurement period from September to August. Are there any questions regarding this item? Great, moving on. Staff and brokers' recommendation to renew the fiduciary insurance. Johnny Tran and Sean Krantz from Alliant Insurance Brokers gave a presentation on SDCERS fiduciary insurance. The committee unanimously approved the fiduciary insurance coverage purchase as recommended. Any questions on this item? Okay, moving on. Number 4, staff's recommendation to amend the information and technology policy, the whistleblower policy, and board rules 7.5, 8.7, and 10.4. Johnny presented staff's recommended changes to these governance documents. The committee approved the amendments unanimously, which included additional edits by the committee to board rules 7.5, 8.7, and 10.4 on the staff recommended changes to further clarify committee and board members should not introduce new evidence during committee and board meetings, which is not considered by the parties and the hearing officer. We had some edits that were proposed by Mr. Brewster, Board Member Brewster, and they're available to show on the big screen if anyone asks. Okay, hearing none. Are there any questions from the board on this item before I move approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 4? Okay, hearing none, I move approval of the consent agenda items 1 through 4. And so does Paul. Paul also moves it. That's okay.
And the motion passes 10-0.
Thank you. Information items. Discussion regarding the board officers and secretary charter and process on election of board president and appointment of vice president. At the request of committee member Brewster, Chris was on a roll yesterday, the committee discussed the board policy allowing 2 one-year presidential terms, meaning 4. The committee had various thoughts and ideas about the presidential term and concluded this would be best discussed by the entire board. Mr. Brewster, would you like to begin the discussion?
Recognizing the limited amount of time the committee chair has, and understanding that this is a kind of a broad issue, I would propose to bring this to the board at the next meeting. I'll provide some backup material so people can see it in advance.
It's okay with me.
Well, then I'll do
If
it.
it's all right with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy to do that. So I'll bring something concrete and we can bat it around.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Will that be enough time? We do have the issue of,
Yes, talking about this at our January meeting would be sufficient.
it will.
Yep.
All right, hang on. Deferred option, retirement option, drop interest rate review. Again, at the request of Committee Member Brewster, the committee discussed a methodology for setting the drop interest rate and the annuity factor. After a thoughtful discussion, the committee took no action towards changing the current methodology and directed the staff to work with the plan actuary to study the impact of changing from the current methodology to one where the rate and factor are set at the SDCERS actuarial investment assumption. It's referring to the discount rate. Chris asked why we don't use the discount rate that we use to value the plan, the entire portfolio on these other two factors. And there are reasons that, the board in prior years have decided not to do that, but to use other rates that are more consistent with the time horizon of the two various chunks of time. The drop is only for 5 years, and the annuity rate is generally for 20 years. If the member continues to receive the annuity for the entire period. So there were reasons why those rates were different, but that is a discussion that we should have.
Okay. We'll have that in January as well.
Yeah. Is that all right?
We will
Or should
do
we do
our
it now?
best to get it done by January, but we just approved the drop program for the coming year. So we do have a little bit of luxury of time, but doing it sooner rather than later is a good idea.
And we'd like to get the actuary involved in it
Okay.
and get his recommendations or her recommendations.
Actually, on that note, I was curious. I know that retreat keeps coming up. Are we going to have a discussion about what the agenda items could be, or?
Yes, we can. My preliminary thoughts on the board retreat is to lean heavily into the investment operations and talk about what is our business plan. I think we're at an inflection point of how, at just over $12 billion, how do we support the investment committee and the board and how we operate the investments and how we want to do roles and responsibilities with SDCERS staff and the consultants as we move forward with our investment program.
So if board of directors have an idea of an agenda item, should they just give it to you?
That would be great.
Okay. So I would encourage you all, if you have any thoughts on what you would like to have covered, to please share that with Greg. Sorry, Bobby.
No, that's fine. Other than that, we heard reports from member services from Natasha, benefits administration from Sandra, information technology from Michelle, and we heard a report from Johnny on compliance, the first compliance report. Are there any questions from board members regarding the B&G committee? None. Thank you. Thanks. Back to you, Lisa.
Okay, well, thank you, Bobby, for the committee report. We will now go back to section 6 to cover disability. So, Paul Lutz, can you provide us the report on disability?
Thank you, Lisa. The Disability Committee met yesterday and approved the recommended actions presented on today's agenda as consent items 1 through 6. I will be discussing all 6 consent agenda items. Are there any questions before I begin, or are there any questions to pull? And we are going to pull number 6. We'll talk about that after we first cover 1 through 5. So before we get to number 6, are there any questions for 1 through 5? Don't see any questions. Starting with consent agenda items 1 through 5, approve the industrial disability retirement applications for Jared Chiselski, Isaiah Cross 1, Lucatero, Arsenio Ortinez, and LaCarter Washington. These 5 applications for industrial disability retirement were unanimously approved by the committee. And as they are for the same type of benefit, the following applies to each application. The committee approved these members' application for industrial disability retirement as each application was supported by evidence of being permanently disabled, being attributable to work duties and causing the need for leaving employment. So any questions from the board on consent items 1 through 5 after hearing that before we move on to consent number 6?
Want to vote on the
Yeah, we should do that.
Want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the
Oh,
Chris has already made the
did.
motion.
Okay.
All right. See, all votes are in.
And the motion passes 10-0.
All right, moving on to consent agenda item number 6. The hearing officer recommended to deny the industrial disability retirement application of Joel Epstein. And yesterday, it was a split vote, 3-2 on this. Lots of material to review. I think one in particular was 42 pages long. And some of us were really on the fence, I think. So since then, and I want to, one of our committee members has had a change of mind, and I really appreciate that because it takes courage to pursue what is good and right. So I think I'm happy that Chris had the courage to think about this a little bit further and want to bring it back to either the disability committee or to the board here to discuss it. My suggestion is to take it back to the disability committee and for further review where we'll see all the information that the hearing officer had. Does anybody have any comments on that or anything they'd like to add? And then maybe,
Well, maybe we should hear from the attorney.
yeah. Is that, okay. You want to make a motion
No.
for that?
Yes, please. And, yeah, I got it wrong. And I want to fix it.
Chris, thank you. Yeah, it's important that we have the trust in each other as a board to be okay with someone changing their mind and wanting to take it into further review and allow things to surface and do, especially when it's going to affect someone's livelihood permanently. So this is good, and I'm thankful for that. So, Chris, would you like to make a motion to return this back to the Disability Committee for further review?
Yes, that's my motion.
Okay.
We can do that.
Yes, the board has the ability to do that. We have these processes just for these types of cases. It's very infrequent that we do that, but this is just kind of the normal course and normal governance. And when this matter goes back to the Disability Committee, the Disability Committee will step into the shoes of the hearing officer, so to speak. And so they will be required to look at all of the evidence. Many retirement organizations, the one I used to work at, there was no hearing officers. The board looked at all the evidence for every case. So we would deliver boxes and boxes and boxes, about 40 cases per month. And it would take about a week to 2 weeks actually to review all that evidence if you opened every box. So this is a normal course. So having the committee step into the shoes of the hearing officer is perfectly appropriate, and it'll be greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions from for the Disability Committee from any members of the board? If you want any more explanation as to why we might be doing this. And you all have the information as well if you'd like to look at it further in the disability notes.
I have a question. Why does it have to go back to the Disability Committee? I mean, because Chris has already changed his vote, so it's 3-2 in favor.
So we don't have the ability to grant that benefit. So somebody needs to go back and look at the evidence and step into the hearing officer's shoes. So it's either this entire board or the Disability Committee doing it and making a recommendation to the board.
Well, the Disability Committee has already done it.
The Disability Committee has reviewed a summary of the evidence, but they have not reviewed all of the evidence. So if you're going to not take the recommendation of the hearing officer, then you need to look at all of the evidence of the case to make a decision.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. I think maybe what I'm understanding is right now, Chris wants an alternative motion to remand it back to the Disability Committee to look at the transcript, to look at the evidence. And alternatively, if that motion failed, then this board could vote whether or not they just want to deny the benefit consistent with what happened yesterday.
But I'm understanding from what you're saying, Greg, that had the committee yesterday voted against the hearing officer's decision, we would have had to do what you're talking about anyway. We would have had to go back and look at the entire record, which we did not have access to.
There would have been options, and again, help me, Counselor, if I get this wrong. There would have been options. You could have sent it back to the hearing officer. You could have directed staff to explore different evidence or different questions. So yes, one of the issues would be to step into the shoes of the hearing officer or direct your experts to explore additional information.
So I have a question. So the prior action item was to deny the benefit, and now with Chris's revisiting of his vote, that could change.
That's correct.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Or not. They may,
Or
the,
not, I
the
don't-
committee may look at the evidence and go, no, I think the hearing officer was correct,
Okay.
and come to that conclusion. But it's really going in and looking at, the key is looking at all of the underlying information and evidence
Okay.
in making that determination.
Okay, I understand.
Right.
So you've already made that motion, right?
on the screen.
Okay.
All right. I see the votes are all in. Thank you, board, for supporting
We're waiting
this.
for, sorry.
We're waiting for,
Mr. Chair, we're waiting for Ms. Spoon.
oh, didn't see that. One more.
Thank you, and that motion passes 10-0.
Okay, thank you. Well, this finishes the Disability Committee action items. Staff presented an information item on disability-related changes in board rules that will be voted on as part of the Business and Governments Committee consent agenda, which we have already done. So the committee reviewed the hearing before the committee, and board rules and edits were recommended, and we saw that. You had the opportunity to see that up on the overhead. And now, moving on to staff provided a disability status report. It is also available in the board agenda package. The disability report provides an overview of the disability application review statistics, highlighting the caseload is in good shape, with a caseload of 22 applications, with all but one case within the 18-month processing window, which has been delayed to the members' non-related health conditions. Are there any other questions and comments for the board members or staff? Seeing none, I will give this back to Lisa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So as our former investment chair, Cliff Sherishon, is no longer serving on the board, I have assumed his investment chair duties for the remainder of his term and will be providing today's committee report. So the investment committee met yesterday, and we discussed 6 action items. The first action item deals with the manager selection and therefore was delegated to the investment committee, and the board will not have to vote on that item. But to give you a summary of that item, the investment committee approved $50 million commitment to Blue Owl Diversified Lending Fund for SDCERS private debt portfolio. Just for background, Blue Owl Diversification Lending Fund is an evergreen fund focusing on senior loans to stable companies originating in the upper middle market. Blue Owl is an experienced investor in this space and focuses on downside protection in the deals they structure. This investment will provide diversification and help build out SDCERS direct lending portfolio, and this commitment will bring the private debt allocation closer to its 5% long-term debt. And SDCERS does actually have Blue Owl currently in our portfolio. Can you tell the board a little bit about what they've done for us prior? Karina, thank you.
Certainly. Happy to do so. So we invested in 2020 in a tech fund, so tech sector specific, managed by Blue Owl. And we've had over 11% net return on that investment. So we're very pleased with those results. And that was within our GCM Wind and Sea portfolio.
Perfect. Thank you, Karina. So this item was approved and it was unanimous. And so we have 5 remaining action items that are on the consent agenda for this board to approve. The first item was an annual portfolio structure review and recommendation for private equity, private debt, and infrastructure. At the last board meeting, the public market structure review and real estate structure reviews were all discussed. This is the second part of that portfolio structure review, which focuses on other private markets. SDCERS Private Consulting Callan, which we all approved the last board meeting, worked with staff to complete a portfolio structure review for the private market asset classes. These changes work to expand our target allocation to buyouts, which is less risky than growth equity, while increasing direct investments in funds to reduce fees and control for risk in our private equity portfolio. And that's the key. We want to reduce risk as well as reduce fees. And so we're tilting our infrastructure portfolio more towards core as opposed to non-core to reduce the overall risk and fees and maintain previously approved pacing for private debt. So that is item number 1. Are there any questions on that consent item number 1? No.
I just want to say thank you for incorporating in the review the risk component and explain to why that the risk component is important.
Absolutely. Karina, do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, I think you said it very well, Madam Chair. So we are looking through this structure review to essentially mitigate risk across these different asset classes. So you'll notice that the upper end, for example, to special sits, which tends to be more distressed, for example, is reduced from 10 to 30% down to 0 to 20. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't force us into those types of investments. On the buyout side, increasing the upper limit to buyouts with the idea that we would invest more directly in funds and thereby avoid a double layer of fees on primary funds within the private equity book. No change in terms of core versus non-core on the private debt side, but looking to expand classification of core debt to include also asset-based lending. So here that will help us diversify corporate credit risk in underwriting hard assets as well as specialty finance strategies. So that's also to come. We expect to recommend to the board a recommendation for an asset-based lending fund. And then again on infrastructure, looking to reduce the risk by increasing the allocation to core, so more stressing the traditional infrastructure type investments that are higher cash yielding and less opportunistic or cyclical than what we currently have within our separately managed accounts with GCM and Stepstone. Thank you.
Thank you. So the second item was investment policy statement, recommended changes by Aon. At the last meeting, the board approved updates on the investment policy, and the second component of changes was really to further streamline the investment policy as well as streamline the appendix. So they reduced that appendix side and really cleaned up the investment policy. The third item was the private equity, private debt, infrastructure, and annual investment plan. So first we looked at the overall structure, and now the third item was to look at the pacing plan. So every year the staff presents investment plans for the private market asset class, which outline how we invest in each of these asset classes over the coming year. The investment plans for each asset class will help bring SDCERS closer to its target allocation. In private equity, it's recommended that $350 million be committed in fiscal year 2026, with a 280 split between advisors GCM and Stepstone, and $70 million it be directly invested. In private debt, it is recommended that SDCERS commit $200 million in fiscal year 2026 to 3 to 4 funds, and in infrastructure, it is recommended that SDCERS commit $225 million fiscal year 2026, with a $75 million split between the advisors, and $150 million be committed directly in 1 to 2 core open-ended funds. And I thought it was interesting listening to Stepstone. They had a target of $30 million, but they were only able to actually execute $10 million, but they had a plan for trying to reach that target. But are there any additional comments from any of the investment committee members that'd like to share from the meeting? Karina, do you have any other thoughts before I close this item?
No, I think you've said it well. We would probably envision the $150 million to be split across at least 2 investments. So I would just make that specification. Otherwise, no changes.
Okay, so this item was unanimously approved by the investment committee. So now we need to vote on the consent items. Or actually, do I need to go to all 3 other? I need to go through do I need to finish all the consent items, including the custodian bank?
No.
I don't need to.
I'm sorry, I was doing something else. Can you repeat your question?
Well, I just went through all the investment items, and the other 2 are not necessarily
Went in 3. She didn't
pure
cover 4 and
investment.
5.
Should I?
No. They should be in the motion, but we don't need to talk about them if nobody wants to talk about them.
Okay, so the other 2 items was a custodial bank, and we already used that State Street, and they did a great job actually through the negotiation. They were actually able to lower the fees, so it was really a great outcome. And then we extended Makita's contract by the one last year.
Could I ask one question on number 5? So is this a similar situation to our Aon scenario where there was a 5-year contract, 2 extensions, and so we're on the last extension or something?
That's right.
Thank you.
Do you have any concerns about that?
I just don't think it's a good practice. I think, we should be looking to address these things at the end of the 5 years and not go into the extension only because, hey, if we're in the middle of the extension and something goes sideways, then what do we have? How do we rescue ourselves under those circumstances? So,
Well, I'll just
but
comment
but
as
we're there, and so
well,
there's nothing we can do about it.
As an operational person, not at SDCERS, it's an industry practice
Okay.
to have 5 and 2. And
Right.
And if you're not doing well or feel comfortable at the 5-year, typically you do end at 5. But if you're pleased with the level of service, it is common practice to extend to those 2. But,
Okay.
I mean, we don't have to agree, but that's my position.
And also, if I may clarify, the Makita contract is a 5-year total. It was a 3-year term with 2 1-year extensions.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, thank you.
So this is the 5th year.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you for the clarification. But 5 and 2 is also standard.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just one further clarification on the State Street contract. The fees are technically a little bit higher, but we are getting additional services, including daily valuation. And importantly, State Street gave us a better break on our securities lending revenue. So largely, you can consider it a wash at the highest level. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we also had numerous reports. I'm not going to report out on the reports, but please read them. I would encourage you all to read them. So we have a motion to approve.
And the motion passes 10-0.
Okay, thank you. Do you all want to take a break, or do you want to keep going? You want to take a break? Okay, we'll take a break. 10-minute break. I was going to keep going. We on a roll. We almost.
I haven't thought about it, yeah.
The thing that came to my mind first. Okay, at the school.
I haven't heard it. My daughter's school is some kid threatened to shoot at us.
Thanks, Bobby. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene. If you can please take your seats. And we're moving through this agenda quite quickly, so we might be out of here in 30 minutes. So now we're going to move to Section 9, questions and comments from president, trustees, and staff. Do we have any questions or comments or educational session report outs from board members?
No, you go ahead.
I know, and Paul, you might have had some comments about your last conference too, you were telling me.
Oh, conferences, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, just for information, I went to the private equity. Just for clarification, quickly, I went to the private equity meeting. I forget the name of who ran it. It was Markets Group. It was up in San Francisco. Very, very comprehensive meeting. They went through pretty much all the structural elements of private equity. I found it very helpful, especially if you're not familiar with private. We go. Am I on board now? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would recommend that market group is a pretty good group. I will make an observation that there were a lot of brokers there, and handing out your card did the usual expectation. I got deluged with email for weeks after that. So
don't give them your card.
Don't give them your card. You can give them Karina's address instead.
No, don't.
It was definitely worthwhile. I'm glad I went.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, Brewster?
Yes, this is just really a bookmark and a request. A couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, we determined that one of our policies regarding additional contributions, the ability of members, active members, to make additional contributions to their retirement was incorrect, and it was amended. So we now have a policy that states quite clearly that members, active members, may make additional contributions. And from my perspective, considering that that is board policy, we have an obligation to do that. I'm aware that, very aware that the CEO has been in touch with the city about whether they would like to see that aspect of the municipal code continue and that aspect of the plan continue. How fast the city might move on that is anyone's guess. But in the meantime, we have an obligation to move on it because it's part of the plan. What I would like to ask is that the CEO or another appropriate member of staff report to Business and Government Committee in the next meeting and meetings subsequent as to where we are on that and what's going on, because the longer we postpone it, the more we disadvantage active employees who might want to avail themselves of that benefit. So just a request. Thank you.
Noted.
Any other questions or comments?
I
Greg,
have.
do you have any questions or
Yes,
comments?
I do. I have some remarks I'd like to make. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
To begin my comments, I would like to recognize and thank Cliff Shearson for his SDCERS board service. He joined the board in 2019 and helped us lead us through COVID and numerous other challenges, which many of you also lived through and helped guide this board through. And he brought a very strong investment skill set to the board, which will be greatly missed. I really want to emphasize he left our board in very good standing. And he left with a deep appreciation of all of you, his colleagues. And so thank you, Cliff. I'd also like to recognize and thank Louis for his board service. As we mentioned, today is his last meeting, so we want to celebrate and thank you, Louis. Louis joined our board in May 2021, and we've all enjoyed his very insightful investment discussions, and importantly, balanced with his passion for the human side of our business. It's very rare you see such a rich skill set of both those, not only the technical investment side, but also the caring for our community. So thank you for bringing that voice to our board, Louis. You'll be missed. Hopefully you'll be back. We'll see. And I also like to say thank you. Technically, your term ended in March, but you very graciously agreed to continue on as long as practically possible. So thank you for doing that and continuing your service. I appreciate that. I'd also like to mention that I have been following up with the mayor's office on our vacancy crisis. I'm using those words very specifically now at the mayor's office. Before they were just requests. Now I'm like, we are in crisis mode. We have three, starting in about 45 minutes, we'll have, or less, sorry, we'll have 3 vacancies with Bobby carrying over because her 2 terms have ended and she's technically termed out of office. So we're 4 people down. We hope to be stepping it up and actually having a meeting with the mayor to talk about this directly. I am trying to be very positive and encourage their behavior to select and recruit. We give them candidates to consider, so we're trying to help with the pipeline and flow of candidates. Just to be very frank, we had met to talk about resignation letters as a board. I have not broached that subject yet with the mayor. But I plan to at the appropriate time, hopefully as we get the candidates flowing in, and we can then have that very tough discussion and make sure that they act appropriately. Moving on, I would like to recognize Johnny Tran and Susan St. John for presenting at the Calipers Attorneys Roundtable this past October. And really thank Johnny for doing a staff training on the City of San Diego pension crisis for our staff. We've had many, many new people join our team, and I don't think they really understood the magnitude and the importance of the pension crisis and the lessons learned that we do not want to repeat. So thank you, Johnny, for doing that. I'd also like to thank Johnny for attending the Retired Fire and Police Association Quarterly Luncheon. It was a very fun event to connect with our members. We saw some past SDCERS board members. We saw some current SDCERS board members. Had enjoyed my time with Chris. And so that was a good event. It's always good to connect with our members. I'd like to recognize our entire organization for being awarded the Public Pension Standards Award for Funding and Administration for 2025, which demonstrates our adherence to good administrative and funding practices as an organization. So nice job to this board and to the team. And most importantly, I would like to recognize and thank our Compliance Program Coordinator and Senior Paralegal Melanie Peter for supporting the board while Rosie is away from the office for the next couple of months on family business. And I would like to thank our information technology team for their support in assisting Melanie. I don't think she could have done it alone. With a special shout out to Blanca Gomez, Norma Frank, and Jacob over here in the corner. So thank you all.
When does Rosie return?
We expect her back after our January meeting.
Oh, so, okay. So Melanie, you'll be with us for January.
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
As long as the airplane lands on time. All right. And finally, I would like to recognize the winners of the SDCERS Halloween contest. Best Individual Cubicle Decorations, Nayali Sanchez. Congratulations, Nayali. Best Group Decorations, Member Services for their Mario Kart theme. Best Group Costume, again, Member Services for their Mario Kart characters. And my favorite, the Best Individual Costume, something that I term as Help, I Am Trapped in a Zombie's Box, Jamie Hamrick.
Oh, very nice.
Thank you. This concludes my remarks.
Okay, well, thank you.
May
Brad.
I make some comments?
Go ahead, Louis.
It's been a true pleasure and honor. I don't know how many people know this story, but when I arrived in San Diego in '98, I worked for an investment firm, Brandis Investment Partners, who is still a current manager of the plan. And I would show up to these board meetings sitting over there presenting. I was like 28 or something, 29. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I wonder what it would take for this refugee boy from Oklahoma to one day be sitting on the other side of the table. And as the universe would make it work, I end up on this side. And when I show up some 4 years ago, investment is my background. So I'm like, this is a cakewalk. And I walk in here and the complexity of what you guys do really blew me away. The intricacies, the ramification to livelihoods, it's beyond just sort of the numbers, and so a deep appreciation. And as many of you know, I sit on a number of different boards, and one of the big takeaway from my experience here, two actually, is how crucially important it is to have good relationships with your board members, because there will be times where there are going to be very, very tough, difficult conversations, and you need to draw on that goodwill, and you need to draw on that familiarity of civility to have those conversations, to tease out very difficult things, and to have an environment where you build those relationships that can later be used. You need to have joy. You need to have camaraderie, and I love to see now social events that we're putting together. I love sort of Chris coming on and inviting people over to his homes, and so when I go on to other boards, I make that comment. I said there will be a time where we will have very, very difficult conversations, and we're going to be what the young people now calls 10 toes down. Like you grip and you stand your line, and people, it's not personal, right? But to have all that goodwill that's been built up allows for us to have those conversations. And that's a big lesson that I've taken away in this 4+ years of being on this board. And so thank you for putting up with all my fedoras, and thank you for putting up with all my questions. I am truly blessed to have had this experience, so thank you.
Thank you, Louis.
Louis, I just want to say I'm going to miss your hat. And thank you for introducing me to the term thought experiment. I'm going to be able to use that later in life, but I absolutely miss you being here. Thank you.
Same here. Okay, so now we're going to move into closed session. So we'll have all the staff move out and we'll stop recording, right, Melanie?
Thank you.
The AI, yes.
That's all.
Okay, thank you, Johnny, and thank you all. We are adjourned. Have a happy holidays if I don't see you, and we'll reconvene in January.
Thank you, Lisa Marie. Thank you, everyone.